Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw. I'm here in Manchester, England, and we're here in the Northern District, which is a really cool arts and entertainment district of bars, restaurants, everything else. And we're here with Haley Flynn of Skyliner Tours, and Haley just gave us an amazing tour all across this district, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, Haley, first of all, this was an amazing tour. Thank you so much. It was really an eye opener. I've always wanted to do this kind of tour in this city because I'm a huge football fan, and we get enough of that with which is with the two teams here. And I've loved seeing the historic parts of the city. But this is a whole different story. Talk a little bit about what this tour does.
So I use street art as a way to tell the narrative of what used to be a heavily textile industry, and now it's a really popular place for people to come and drink, but there's more to it than that, and I think that art really kind of serves as an anchor for that story to tell people about the market history and the pubs and lots of different initiatives that the community are undertaking to try and improve the area.
Yeah, well, it has been, and you do lead with that street art. We have some street art behind us, and we've seen amazing artists. When did this street art sort of begin?
Well, there's a distinction between graffiti and street art. So the graffiti really took off from the 80s, but in terms of the street art that we're seeing now, it's kind of been a slow kind of drip feed since then, with it really taking off probably like 7 years ago when we first got some large-scale murals, and then it's gone crazy since 2016, really.
Well, some of our viewers may know some of the street artists. Talk a little bit about some that you offer on the tour.
Yeah, there's a mixture of local artists, but lots of international ones. So the international names, Axel Void is probably the most respected. I'm not sure if he's the most well known. He's a Spanish artist, but he lived in Miami for most of his life. We see Tank Petrol's work, who's a Polish artist that's really well known here and loved. And then a lot of local artists include people like Axe, who is famous for painting kind of television personalities, Breaking Bad, that sort of thing.
So you see all of that, and you see Murray. You also show them a lot of markets and things like that. Talk about some of that we saw.
So we go to see the old fish markets, which are now really just the gates, and it's been made into a bit of a square. But they've got lovely sculptures on there by a guy called Joseph Bonehill, and that was a huge part of the industry here, and all the other trades that followed. The amount of pubs that we have were here to serve the people that were working in the markets. Okay. So we had, long before 24-hour licenses were in vogue again, we had people opening up their pubs at 5 or 6 a.m. because of people finishing work in the fish markets or just about to start.
And then you also have a wonderful crafts center, which we went to briefly, that a lot of different stores where you can get all kinds of things, right?
Yeah, so that was also a fish market and a chicken market. They've kept some of the original architecture, but it's been artist studios since about 1980 or 82, and lots of people making jewellery and ceramics and that sort of handmade crafts. Yeah,
I have to go back to, actually. I think I owe a few gifts for people, so we'll see what happens there. And you also have a wonderful food hall you took us through, and what's that one?
The Mackie Mayor.
Yeah,
so that's the most recent market that we've saved, but it's from that same period of the late 1800s. It was briefly a skate park, but that was kind of an unofficial use, but it's been empty for around 40 years. And in 2017, I think it was, they opened it up as this food hall that's open for breakfast and open till late. And it's just a really great kind of community vibe where everybody is forced to sit together and chat to each other, but it's a real asset, I think, for the area.
And then we just ended at a wonderful place, and tell us about that one. I haven't been in it. Now I got to go back. What was that? That was
Affleck's. Formerly Affleck's Palace. It's hard to put into words, but they call themselves an eclectic emporium. So I always try and sum it up in kind of a nerdy sense that you can go and buy rare Star Wars figurines, but at the same time you could have a tattoo and buy yourself an ice cream whilst you're at it. And it's just somewhere you need to visit because I can't convey in words what kind of place it is, but it's a real Manchester institution.
Well, the other thing I loved about the tour is that you don't hide anything. You said there is a homeless problem in Manchester, as there is in New York, to be honest with you, everywhere. And you're talking about some of the issues with that. You're talking about some of the more liberal and political radicalism of which Manchester is long famous, right? So you do try to give that kind of history too, right?
Yeah, so I didn't know that this was a bit of a movement, but apparently it's called the Ante Tour. So it's where you're not just saying, look at this grand Victorian building and what a great place this is to visit, because I think it's more important to show people the issues of a city as well, because it makes it real, it makes you care about it and question it, and hopefully that will in turn make the city improve as well, because if tourists are aware of the homelessness issue, then maybe it'll push them to do something about it. So I think it's quite a unique point to work with tourists like this and be able to give them this kind of condensed history that's totally honest, and see where that might
Although
lead.
I got to tell you, there seems to be a lot of development going on, a lot of new apartments coming in this area where, it's still, parts of it are still a little gritty and cool, and you are getting some influx of gentrification in some places, although you said there were some streets that are still, that you don't get that issue so far yet.
Yeah, there is a huge amount of redevelopment. We're on a kind of race to become a world-class city. So I think some people see that as having lots of skyscrapers, but there's a lot of members of the community that see it as growing the neighbourhood and growing the community to have more schools and more provisions and just a chance to connect internationally with more visitors that are coming here, rather than just see it as a way to put up a load of skyscrapers.
Yeah, no, and it's great. And now we go out to about 95,000 travel advisors in the U.S. How can they get in touch with you to get their clients on your tours?
Okay, so my website is just theskyliner.org. There's a tours section on there, and I'm Skyliner MCR on all the social media, so kind of easy to find, I think.
Wonderful. Well, listen, Haley, thank you so much. It was a wonderful tour, and I'd encourage you to, this is definitely, you want to see a city that's growing and evolving, and counterculture and art and all kinds of things all into one. This district of Manchester, Northern District, and then there are other districts around as well that are very interesting as well, and you do a marvelous job of presenting it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.